Turks, JQ Granick is pairing with you guys. We're back in our home studios because of COVID raging throughout LA, California, and the entire nation. In fact, we'll have news about that a little bit later in the program. Speaking of raging, Republicans have now gone to full war against each other. Oh, it's awesome. Oh, it's awesome. Okay, that's coming up later in the program. Two different insane right-wing websites are now fighting. Yes, okay. So speaking of yes, next week we turn 15 online. So overall we're 18 years old, but we're went online doing an online video 15 years ago, and we're the oldest show on the internet. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? 15 years in internet years is 1,500 years for everyone else. Okay, we have somehow survived all of that. Anyway, one way you could celebrate, I'm gonna tell you one way we're celebrating it. That's by going back to the 2-hour show next week. Okay, so that's coming up. You're gonna love that. So much more programming again starting next week, obviously at 6 p.m. Eastern. So check that out, and then I want to. The other way you can celebrate is, I'm not saying you could give $15 or even 150 or 1,500 for our 15th birthday, so we can finish super strong and actually get to our 2 million goal at the end of the year, because this is the last month. I'm just saying tyt.com/go. So real quick, let's take a look at the thermometer before we get started. And this is for the month of December, but we're behind overall for the whole year. 10,900. You gotta get to 200,000. We gotta go. tyt.com/go. We love you, Casper. Speaking of go.
All right. Following Attorney General William Barr's decision to essentially admit that there was absolutely no evidence of widespread voter fraud, even after the FBI investigated allegations of widespread voter fraud, of course, Donald Trump is furious. He's disappointed in his Attorney General, and he wants to retaliate as the White House turns.
Made some very big mistakes. I asked for his resignation.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General.
So for anyone who might have missed the news earlier this week, Barr said most of the claims of fraud that had come to the Department of Justice generally were, quote, very particularized and a particular set of circumstances or actors or conduct. They are not systemic allegations. And again, he added to that statement that there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. The amount of voter fraud that would need to take place in order for the results of this election to go in Donald Trump's direction. Remember, Joe Biden won the popular vote by a large margin and had a total of 306 electoral college votes. Now, CNN's Caitlin Collins recently reported that Trump and Barr had a contentious meeting this week on Tuesday after the Attorney General told the Associated Press the Justice Department uncovered no evidence of fraud that would change the election outcome, which led Trump to erupt. It was angry, but a person familiar says Trump wasn't screaming. Now, he also is threatening to essentially fire William Barr, even though there's very little time left in Donald Trump's term. And so he's furious, of course, about Barr's statements, but there are other issues that Trump has been, kind of like issues that have been festering for Trump in regard to William Barr. And one of those issues is the fact that William Barr appointed a special counsel, John Durham, to investigate the Russia investigation in October, right? And so William Barr apparently did that on the hush hush, but Durham didn't release any of his findings prior to the election taking place, which is what Trump is incredibly salty about. Now, did that investigation find any issue with the way that the Russia investigation was conducted? Well, apparently there was one finding that I want to just quickly note. So far, Durham has charged only one person, an FBI lawyer who actually altered a document that helped justify secret surveillance of Carter Page, a former advisor to Trump's 2016 campaign. The lawyer pleaded guilty and is actually awaiting sentencing. It's unclear if that information was discovered prior to the election taking place, but Trump is furious at both William Barr and Durham for not releasing damaging information toward the Democrats prior to the election. So that was strike number one. And of course, strike number two, which is one of the biggest strikes, is the fact that William Barr told the truth about how there is no evidence of widespread fraud.
So earlier this week, we told you that Barr saying that there was not enough voter fraud. The reality is, of course, there's almost none in this election that would overturn the results. Was basically the Republican Party saying, no, Donnie, it's not gonna work, and we're not gonna back you. Now we're all gonna still be in hiding, don't get me wrong, and we're all, as far as anybody knows, like liars like Ron Johnson are publicly saying, oh yeah, Joe Biden didn't win, Biden didn't win, right? But by having Barr say there was no voter fraud, the Republican Party has basically cut Donald Trump loose. So now that gets to the question of how is Trump going to react? Well, there's three different sets of folks in this country. There are the Republicans who are all live in crazy land. Only 3% of them believe that Joe Biden has won the election. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And then the rest of the folks are divided into two camps. One is Fantasy Island, and the president of Fantasy Island is Joe Biden, where they say, oh no, the fever's gonna break, and the Republicans are gonna go back to being reasonable. And so Trump will then realize that when Barr says this, it's all over. And then there is the third camp, which is us, the only people in the country who are sane and can understand facts. So did we expect Donald Trump to react rationally to Barr's decision? Of course not. Of course he was gonna lose his mind. It's amazing to me that Fantasy Island group still every time, oh, sanity right around the corner for Trump and the Republican voters. Just if we go a little further, they'll be sane. No, they won't. He won't ever be sane. So of course he's thinking of firing Barr. And why would you fire Barr with like 6 weeks left to go in your presidency? One, out of spite, and two, because you'd like to replace him with a henchman / lunatic who, I don't know, maybe helps you declare martial law, because that's another story we're gonna talk about today, because that's the next step that they're thinking about, because they're out of all options. There's only one thing left, a constitutional / military coup. And so Trump is ready to do it. The reports are almost everybody inside the White House is trying to tackle him so he doesn't do it. How long can they try to contain him? They sometimes have meetings. Sorry, Anna, one last quick thing. Sometimes they have meetings, and this was explained in the stories, where they'll get Trump to agree. They'll be like, okay, good. Now remember, we're not, tweeting that we should do violent acts against other people. He'd be like, oh, okay, fine, I won't. And they'll leave, and then an hour later, he'll be back to like, go get him, do something, stand by, go, right? Because he is actually crazy.
Yeah, so remember yesterday, there was a story about various Trump cronies, including Roger Stone, claiming that William Barr is part of the deep state because of the fact that he came out and told the truth about what's happening with this election and how there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Now, Kayleigh McEnany was asked during a press conference about whether or not Donald Trump is thinking about firing William Barr based on the statements that he's made publicly, and here's what she had to say.
Does he have faith in Attorney General Bill Barr? Does he still have confidence in Bill Barr?
The president, if he has any personnel announcements, will be the first to know it.
And that statement was reminiscent of what Kayleigh McEnany said of Mark Esper, as Mark Esper and Donald Trump were feuding, because Esper did a little bit of critique over the way Trump was using federal agents to rain terror on protesters. When Kayleigh McEnany at the time was asked about Trump's relationship with Esper and whether or not he would continue to be employed under the Trump administration, here's how she responded.
Does the president still have confidence in Secretary Esper?
With regard to whether the president has confidence, I would say if he loses confidence in Secretary Esper, I'm sure you all will be the first to know.
But as of right now, he still does?
As of right now, Secretary Esper is still Secretary Esper, and should the president lose faith, we will all learn about that in the future.
Well, this might be a foreshadowing moment because Secretary Esper is certainly no longer Secretary Esper.
So they're out of all options here. And so you fire Barr, what do you do with it? I mean, And again, the only thing left is just a flat out actual physical coup. And so Barr was his biggest enabler. There's no end to the Trump MAGA deep state conspiracies. So Bill Barr was his number one enabler, the person who helped him the most inside the government, covered up his crimes, pretended that he was saying things that were real when he made up evidence against others. It was the most atrocious actions I've ever seen by an attorney general. And now they're like deep state. If Don Jr. one day says, yeah, I think Trump lost, like deep state, Ivanka, deep state, it doesn't matter. So my last hypothesis on this is, what if Trump himself is deep state? Just think about it.
All right, well, while you guys are thinking about that, let's think a little bit about martial law and the potential of martial law taking place in this country so Donald Trump can have his way. So, right-wing zealots who didn't get their way in the presidential election are now urging Donald Trump to declare martial law to do a so-called rerun of the election. One of those zealots actually happens to be former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who was just recently pardoned by Donald Trump. Flynn linked to an ad from a Tea Party affiliated group called We the People Convention. And in it, there was a 1,500-word manifesto that invokes Abraham Lincoln's extraordinary use of presidential authority to suspend habeas corpus, as it compares the more widely known Civil War with Antifa and Black Lives Matter attacking major cities with their anti-American agenda. So understand what this ad, which was shared by Michael Flynn, is suggesting: that Donald Trump should declare martial law, right, which suspends the Constitution, and demand a rerun of the election. And the whole idea of like what should trigger it is the country is under threat by Antifa and anti-American groups. It's absolutely ridiculous. So here's the tweet that was shared by Flynn. And again, I mean, you can see he even tagged people like Sidney Powell, Lin Wood, who we'll talk about a little later in the show, Lou Dobbs, Dan Scavino, all of our, lunatic friends here in the United States. Now, here's what the actual manifesto says. To advance their cause, these socialists are acting to defund the police, creating chaos and suspending the rule of law that protects millions of average and particularly minority Americans. The results being massive increases in violent crime and deaths in our cities, and the destruction of small businesses orchestrated by those politicians and leftist groups, many funded by domestic and international communists. We are likely under attack from within. Then this is what they call, this is when they call for martial law, where they write, when the legislators, courts, and or Congress fail to do their duty under the 12th Amendment, you must be ready, Mr. President, to immediately declare a limited form of martial law and temporarily suspend the Constitution and civilian control of these federal elections for the sole purpose of having the military oversee a national revote, the ad said. Insane, just absolutely insane. And Trump is actually considering doing this. We have video to prove it, but Cenk, your thoughts?
So Michael Flynn is Trump's former national security advisor. That is one of the very top roles in the government. And he was always a lunatic. And now he's saying, yeah, let's just do a right-wing coup. What do you think martial law is? Martial law is literally a coup, where you say the Constitution doesn't apply anymore and the president is temporarily king and he can do anything he wants. That's what martial law is. We can arrest anyone we want under this hypothesis that they are part of a domestic and or international communist ring. So you've heard me say it 1,000 times on the show. I guess I'm trying to compensate for the rest of media refusing to say that the emperor has no clothes. No, these people. No, they're not. Are you kidding me? They're saying he's a lunatic. Donald Trump is a deranged lunatic.
They don't call him a lunatic,
but he is. He is. They're actually considering declaring martial law. And by the way, these are the same idiot. And name one time that anyone on cable news has said that Republican voters are nuts. They've totally lost their minds.
What is that going to accomplish?
What's that?
But like, what is that going to accomplish? Having a bunch of like mainstream media people calling Trump supporters nuts, that's going to accomplish nothing, Cenk. People know. People who are reasonable people already, okay.
No, they don't. So
okay, so let's go ahead.
It's all about branding. Right now, everyone in media is still pretending that Republican voters and Republican politicians are sane, and so now everything becomes 50-50. So now they've gone to the complete end of the spectrum. So they're like, now are we going to debate whether we should tear up our Constitution? So later, Anna, they will pretend, you mark my words, is an absolute guarantee that the entire Republican Party was not with Donald Trump when they were trying to do insane things like martial law and get rid of the Constitution. And they'll say, it was minor players, it was funny. The former national security advisor. It is not funny. They 100% mean it. No one on cable news says, yes, they mean it. Yes, most Republican voters in this country believe this crap. And yes, they don't believe in America. They don't believe in the United States. All those guys who pretended they were for the Constitution, the minute they're about to lose their power, they're like, tear it up, suspend the Constitution, we hate it, okay? So now, have the Democrats and the corporate media explain to people that the majority of Republican voters don't believe in the Constitution? That they believe in an un-American coup to steal an election? No, beloved Republican voters. Republican voters, we cannot offend you. We'll do political correctness, even though all the polls indicate you guys are all nuts and only 3% of you believe Joe Biden won the election. That political correctness is destroying this country.
I want you to be specific though. Who in the media? Who in the media is justifying or in any way apologizing for the nonsense coming from Donald Trump in legitimate media? I'm not talking about Gateway Pundit or all these other lunatic outlets.
No. Those are two different things. I'm not saying that the media is coming out saying Trump is right or let's debate whether this election was won by Biden or Trump. I'm saying that they are not calling out the Republican politicians and the Republican voters.
Though.
Republican voters, show me. We do a whole show. We got a staff. Find me one pundit on television anywhere saying that Republican voters are nuts. That
they're not going to call Republican voters nuts.
Believe things that aren't remotely true.
Okay, so I will show you that content later off air because it exists. They're not going to call voters lunatics. I don't think that accomplishes anything, but they certainly do call out Republican lawmakers who are refusing to speak up and acknowledge the reality of the outcome of the election. They put pressure on those politicians on a regular basis, and I know that because I have to consume all this media all day long in order to prepare for this show. But anyway,
all right, last thing, Anna. You asked the question, I'll answer it. What does it accomplish? It accomplishes the truth. And what's going to happen in the next 4 years is that 73% of Republicans who absolutely positively, there's another chunk who are not sure, but 73% absolutely believe that the Democrats stole this election and they committed fraud with Hugo Chavez and the communists, etc. Those lunatics will create massive trouble, massive. They think, no, we're gonna go back to normal. We're not gonna go back to normal because Trump has poisoned the minds of nearly half this country. And that is a cancer that is going to eat up this country. So us just like laughing or getting past it is it's not gonna work. So we can cater to the delicate sensibilities and feelings of Republican voters, but the cancer is gonna grow as long as we continue to humor them and not tell the truth.
All right, so what is the likelihood of Donald Trump actually taking the bait and declaring martial law? Well, he hasn't said anything about this publicly yet, but we do have multiple examples, and we'll show you one of them right now, where Donald Trump has said that he would like to use the military in order to carry out whatever political agenda he has. Here he is on September 12th talking to Jeanine Pirro about how he would like to use the military.
They say that they're going to threaten riots if they lose on election night. What are you going to do?
We'll put them down very quickly if they do that. We have the right to do that. We have the power to do that if we want. Look, it's called insurrection. We just send in and we do it very easy. I mean, it's very easy. I'd rather not do that because there's no reason for it. But if we had to, we'd do that and put it down within minutes.
And what could be a better reason than avoiding facing criminal prosecution, which he and his family members certainly are facing after he leaves the White House. That's why one of the biggest stories yesterday was the fact that he was considering doing a preemptive pardon on his family. A preemptive pardon before they've even been charged with a crime, which there is precedent of when Gerald Ford did that for Richard Nixon before he was criminally charged in the Watergate scandal.
Look, yesterday I put out a tweet saying, scandal, Biden's thinking of doing a pardon for Hunter Biden as soon as he gets into office, just to troll MAGA. And of course they're like, that's outrageous. Okay, Trump's actually considering a pardon for his kids. They're like, that's awesome. You know why? Lunatics. I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it 1,000 times because the polling indicates that it is absolutely true. Look, I got a family friend uncle who now has COVID. He's in his 80s because he believed Donald Trump that COVID was no big deal. So I hope he survives. But I've got an actual uncle who's Muslim, now believes in the Muslim ban because Trump said it. They've lost their minds. We have to have the courage to say it as it is. No one on cable news will say it because, oh my God, the ratings, and we can't call Republicans bad names because we have to protect their feelings. Facts don't care about their feelings. They're still facts. And yes, those voters are nuts. And we have to give them an antidote to the poison that Donald Trump gave them through his conspiracy theories and lunatic ravings. And if you don't actually do that, they will continue to fester. And not at some point, throughout the rest of what's going to happen in America, these things are going to set off consequences that are going to be disastrous.
All right, well, when we come back from the break, we'll talk about someone who might be, the Trump camp is already referring to him as a Democratic plant. But one so-called Trump supporter is urging Republican voters in Georgia to stay at home due to voter fraud issues. We'll give you the details on that insane roller coaster story when we come back.
Time to thank the Young Turks. That's not us, that's you guys. So here are folks who've given through tyt.com/go. Beverly from New York, $127. You get the press on t-shirt. I'm gonna tell you more about that in a second. Eric from Kentucky, $250. You get the shirt too. Jason from Michigan, $3. Love you, Jason. Rodney from California, $146. And Orman from West Virginia, $50. Now you guys know at $127 or more, you get the press on t-shirt. At $1,000 or more, you get the press on hoodie. Plus, you go on the donor wall, and we see that every single day. And if you go to $2,500 or more, I know that's a lot, but if you can afford it, that's amazing. You actually get to name something in the studio. And if you want to know what you could name, go to tyt.com/press-on, and you'll see the list of things that are named, including this desk. I'm really hopeful about the future, and I believe the progressives will win in this country. But you give me hope. And thank you for everything you've done through tyt.com/go.
Hey Georgia, we're not done yet. I'm Dr. Lena Hamilton, poet and educator out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I've got a message for you. You, yes you. If you're gonna be 18 by January 5th, it's time to register to vote. You have until December 7th. We have an important race coming in the Senate runoff, and we need your vote. So get out, get registered, and let's get voting.
Not sure what to get your loved ones for the holidays? Well, we're bringing back the annual membership gift option just for you and yours. I always found to be kind of a funny thing to say, you and yours. Anyways, just head to tyt.com/gift to send a friend or family member the gift of unlimited access to TYT. You can choose the length of membership, type of membership, and even select the theme of the gift. That's tyt.com/gift to bring TYT to all your holiday cheer. tyt.com/gift.
Patience. It's a virtue. They think you can put me in a box. But You can't stifle a revolution. Cenk Uygur, you started something, an idea. The truth and honesty matter above all else. And the people love you for it. And for a while, so did I. We could have stood united, a political force of reckoning upon our foes, the hypocrites, the phonies, the unjust. But you put me in this box.
Cenk! No!
You began without me. You began without me. But God as my witness, I will be the one to finish it.
They did 100 squats a day for 30 days straight. I was like, how hard can that be? That doesn't sound very hard. So I'm gonna try to do this for 30 days and see if there's any difference in my physique.
3 weeks later.
Steve, how is your exercise regimen coming along with your squats?
I did 100, 100, 100, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
You're pacing yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
All right, back on the Young Turks. As some of you saw, tyt.com/go, we're at $10,980 there. Can I see 11,000? It makes all the difference, and it gives power to progressive media, which is really, really important. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. Well, a pro-Trump attorney named Lin Wood is urging voters in Georgia, specifically Republican voters in Georgia, to sit out the Senate runoff races that will be taking place in the state fairly soon. And the reason why he's doing that is because he wants to essentially spread this ridiculous message, same message that Trump is spreading about unfounded claims of widespread voter fraud. But this story has some twists and turns. So first, let's take a good look at who Lin Wood is. He held a rally in Georgia. Let's hear what he had to say.
Where's Kelly Loeffler here? Where's David Perdue? He ought to be standing right here. Those two people want your vote, then they ought to tell you what we're telling Brian Kemp. Get a special session of the legislature now. Do not be fooled twice. This is Georgia. We ain't dumb. We're not going to go vote on January 5th in another machine made by China. You're not going to fool Georgians again. If Kelly Loeffler wants your vote, if David Perdue wants your vote, they've got to earn it. If Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue do not do it, they have not earned your vote. Don't you give it to them. Why would you go back and vote in another rigged election? For God's sakes, fix it.
Now, a little bit of background information on who Lin Wood is, and then I'll share you some of the responses to what he's suggesting there. Now, Wood has represented a number of conservative clients as a lawyer. Sheldon Adelson is an example. He represented him. Also, Wood became celebrated on the right after representing a Covington, Kentucky Catholic student in defamation lawsuits, has repeatedly encouraged Trump supporters to boycott the race in a bid to draw attention to what he insists is massive fraud in the state's election infrastructure. But people like Newt Gingrich absolutely disagree with that. Gingrich, in response to Lin Wood's statements during that rally, said Lin Wood and Sidney Powell, who was there as well, are totally destructive. Every Georgia conservative who cares about America must vote in the runoff. Their vote, or I'm sorry, they don't vote their don't vote strategy will cripple America. And so it's pretty incredible because then after this rally, Breitbart did a little bit of reporting, and they found some interesting information about Lin Wood and where he has donated money, or which political party he's donated quite a bit of money to. So here's what the Breitbart piece looks like, and they're saying Driftwood, MAGA poser goes for sabotage in Georgia. Lin Wood, major Democrat donor for decades, big checks to Obama, funded Purdue opponent. And believe it or not, Trump supporters have turned on Breitbart because they feel that Breitbart is unfairly trashing Lin Wood. Now, here's what the body of the article says, because it is incredibly important for you guys to know like what this is all about and what the allegations are. So they think he's a Democratic plant, right? I don't know what the truth is, but here's what we do know. In 2017, Wood gave a whopping $12,600 to Georgia Democrat gubernatorial candidate Stacey Evans, who was then later beat in the Democratic primary by Stacey Abrams, by the way. In 2017 and 2018, Wood has donated thousands and thousands of dollars in Georgia to state Democrats. He gave $2,000 over 3 separate donations in 2018 to Ken Hodges, a Democratic judge on Georgia's appeals court for his campaign. Back in 2010, Wood gave another $4,200 over several donations to Hodges. He also, in June of 2018, gave $2,600 to Democrat State Senator Zara Karinchak. And I should also know, and I don't think this means anything because Trump has done the same thing. Breitbart was like, ironically, in both 2020 and 2016 general elections, state records show that Wood voted absentee by mail in Georgia, part of the same system he's now railing against. Yeah, like Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump does that. He votes by mail.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so this is an awesome story. Number one of the lines of the year. This is Georgia. We ain't dumb. Okay. If you say so, at least the right wingers. So I have some skepticism around that comment when it comes to the Republicans in that state. Okay, so and he says you ain't gonna fool Georgia again. Well, you might know a thing or two about fooling Georgia again, but that's not the best part. That's an awesome part of the story, but still not the best part. The best part is now Newt Gingrich and Breitbart are apparently part of the deep state. That's it. I mean, come on. I mean, if we were making that up to troll them, it would be so outlandish no one would believe it. But yes, the Gateway pundit now thinks Breitbart is part of the conspiracy to hurt Trump. Breitbart is.
Yeah. Can we actually go to that headline? Yeah. Because Gateway pundit responded to Breitbart by saying, what the hell? Breitbart wages war against attorney Lin Wood, who is defending President Trump against evil Marxist horde. Lin Wood responds.
So wait a minute. Now Breitbart is Marxist. They're with the Marxist horde. I mean, there's no end. Breitbart makes Fox News look like. It makes Fox News look like Jimmy Carter, okay? That's how insanely right-wing Breitbart is. Not enough, Marxist. I mean, look, we tell Democrats all the time, it doesn't matter if you call yourself a moderate and a centrist and don't do Bernie Sanders, he's socialist. They're gonna all call you Marxist anyway. They called Obama Marxist. Now they're calling Breitbart Marxist because no one is pure enough. That's why I think eventually the QAnon and deep state and Gateway pundit, all those guys are gonna go far enough into the rabbit hole that it's gonna go all the way around and they're gonna be like, oh my God, we found the actual deep state Marxist. It's done.
So it gets better. It really does. So what's interesting is how much backlash there is toward anyone who criticizes Lin Wood or suggests doing the opposite of what Lin Wood is urging people to do, which again, he's urging people to sit out the elections, the runoff elections that will determine which party is gonna control the Senate. And so the Trump campaign felt the need to actually chime in on this whole debacle. And here's what they had tweeted earlier. Records Lin Wood has for decades voted for, donated to Democrats, including Barack Obama and David Perdue's 2014 opponent. So that's the Trump War Room Twitter account that posted that. And then they later followed it with, urges, or they followed it with a tweet urging people in Georgia to show up and vote for the Republican candidates in those runoff elections.
Okay, now let's give you the other side. Lin Wood has given over $300,000 to a Trump PAC. At least that's what he claims. I mean, I don't know if that guy ever tells the truth about anything, but he has given to Republicans way more than he's given to Democrats. He's worked with Sheldon Adelson, Herman Cain. He's the one that defended that student that sued the papers in the Capitol. The guy who was wearing, the kid who was wearing the MAGA hat, et cetera. So, I mean, look, we're gonna ask you guys in a poll what you guys think. In fact, let's do it now. So it's tyt.com/polls. Overall gives you all of our polls, but in this case, it's /polls/Lin Wood if you want to be specific. So is Lin Wood true MAGA all the way? A brilliant Democratic troll. And by the way, if that's true, I'm going to declare him champion of the world. It would be the greatest trolling operation in the history of mankind, as he's trying to get Republicans in Georgia to not vote for the Republicans in Georgia. It's amazing. And number 3 is a garden variety opportunistic grifter. Representing both sides to try to make as much money as possible, basically. I'm a little torn on this one. I'm torn between A and C. At first, I was entertaining B, that he was King Troll. But I think that the Republicans are so crazy these days that they're accidentally trolling themselves. So I think Lin Wood really believes voting against Republicans in Georgia will help Republicans in Georgia. I think he believes it. And so what's your sense, Anna? Anna, your volume.
Sorry about that. I would love for it to be B, which is a brilliant Democratic troll. I've yet to find one, so at least on this level. But I think the reality is he's just an opportunistic grifter. This is a way to get his face out there. He's clearly made some money representing. Certainly those Covington teens, there's no question about that. There was a pretty big settlement when it came to that case. And so he's gonna do what he needs to do to get his name out there, his face out there. I don't think he really cares. I think at the end of the day, he is an opportunistic grifter. As we've learned, many people in this country, unfortunately, are in the media, especially.
Yeah, so last thing about this, guys. Well, 1.5. Newt Gingrich, remember, if you're wondering if he's deep state, he was the head of the establishment Republicans. And I mean, Speaker of the House for all that time kind of built the swamp. So now as he's turning on Trump supporting lawyer Lin Wood, is he deep state? I don't know. That's for MAGA to decide. It's not for me to decide. But don't lose sight of what the most important part of this story is, which is who's going to win those Georgia elections, because that will decide the Senate. And at this point, new poll out, and yes, now even me, I'm very wary of polls. But Ossoff leading by 2.5 points, that's still within the margin of error, and Reverend Warnock leading by 7 points. So the Democrats are leading in both races. And I honestly don't know what Republican voter turnout is going to be, because you know my thesis, they're actually crazy. So it might turn out that voter turnout for Republicans is super low, and then they lose those races. But I don't know, and I'm super curious to see which way the crazy ball is going to roll.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and give you a pretty terrible update on what the administration has done when it comes to reuniting families that were separated at the border. Come right back.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not going to want to lose, and he's going to run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better.
Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real.
For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna, take it away.
All right, well, we've been updating you all on what has happened to the families, the migrant families that were separated at the border. As we had shared with you, hundreds of those families have yet to be reunited as a result of the White House and the government just being unable to find the parents who were deported as their children were kept in cages here in the United States. Well, now we have some more information about the number of families who still have yet to be reunited, but more importantly, how the Trump administration was withholding information and data that could have helped these families get reunited much sooner. So in a federal court filing in California late Wednesday, the lawyers representing these migrant families, who by the way are working for free, said that the Justice Department data from the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which includes information for parents and children in immigration court proceedings, was just finally released after a number of court battles last week. So among other things, the information includes phone numbers that had not previously been known, the lawyers said in this filing. So understand that there was critical information that the White House was simply, that the administration was simply holding on to and refusing to release that could have helped these lawyers reunite these kids with their parents. The deputy director for the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project says that this measure is obviously a delayed approach. Here's a statement from Lee Gellert, who says, "We have been repeatedly asking the Trump administration for any additional data they might have to help locate the families and are only getting these new phone numbers and addresses. Everyone's been asking whether the Trump administration has been helping to find these families. Not only have they not been helping, but they've been withholding this data forever." How unbelievably disgusting is that? And by the way, the parents of 666 migrant children had yet to be found by these lawyers. But luckily, since they were able to obtain the data that we're talking about right now, some families have been reunited since then. Some families have been identified since the Trump administration's release of this data, bringing the total number of families that still need to be united or reunited to 628. Within the new data, which lawyers said they had not had adequate time to review, the number could be reduced further. So, I mean, it's a mix of good news, but also pretty terrible news. I'm not naive enough to think that the Trump administration wouldn't do something as hideous as this. But the fact that they held on to this information that could have put these families in touch with one another for so long, as all these negative stories were coming out, it really shows you how unbelievably cruel they are. They just don't care.
Yeah, no, this is an extra level. I'm trying to figure out why. Is it, and the answer might be both here again, but incompetence. They had the information all along, but they just didn't care. They don't care at all that they're separated. And so they didn't even bother looking to see how they could reunite those kids with their families. And because of that incompetence, they just kept them in a cage for 3 years. Who cares, right? That's a very plausible explanation. The other is, no, it was to kind of rub it in. Like, no, we know we have it. Where this is a deterrence. This will teach them to not come here with their kids. Otherwise, we'll put their kids in a cage. We know how to bring them back together. We have their information. We're just not going to share it. And that would be evil. If evil exists, that's what it looks like. And I don't know which one it is. Both are terrible, and it is possible that it is a combination of both. And that perfectly describes the Trump administration.
Yeah, definitely. And keep in mind, I mean, these children who have remained in the United States under, Border Patrol custody are treated horribly. There's no question about it. But taxpayers actually spend money and resources on keeping these children, in these awful situations where they are treated terribly, right? Like, it's just insane because not only is what Trump did and what his White House did insanely cruel, it just makes no sense when you go back and listen to the reasoning that we've heard over and over again from Republicans who claim that we need to do something about immigration because it's draining our resources. No, what you guys do in response to immigration drains resources. They're 100% fueled by their hatred of these people. And it's just so disgusting and shocking, especially when you consider these are asylum seekers. These are people who came to the border looking for safety with their children in tow. And this is the kind of reaction they received. It's disgusting. So, final story is about COVID. The situation's gotten really bad all throughout the country, including in California, which is why we have a stay-at-home order here and we're doing our shows from home. But let me give you some more details on what's happening in the country. So there's an unfortunate new record for the number of coronavirus deaths in a single day. The United States saw its highest single day coronavirus death toll to date this week on Wednesday with 3,157 deaths. 3,157 people died in the United States on a single day from one reason, and that was coronavirus. The number was actually 20% higher than the previous single day high of 2,603 on April 15th, and brings the total US death toll to 273,799. I'm sure the number is higher at this point, but that's data from Johns Hopkins University. But these right-wing governors remain defiant, and one of them is Ron DeSantis from Florida, who has decided to double down on his disastrous response to COVID. Watch.
Have you considered a statewide mask mandate, or the CDC has recommended it as cases are rising again?
How has that worked out in the states that have done it? Has that stopped an outbreak in Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan? What about New Jersey? What about all these states where you have explosion in cases? So, I mean, at some point, does the observed experience matter? I'm opposed to mandates, period. I don't think they work. People in Florida wear them when you go out. I mean, they don't have to be strung up by a bayonet to do it. Fining people is, I think, totally overboard. And I think, respectfully, there's narratives that like lockdowns work, and they don't. If you look at the evidence, business closures, all this stuff, would you rather be 44th in cases and be open like Florida is? Or would you rather be in the top 10 in cases and be locked down and have continual lockdowns far into the future? And that's another thing. The lie of the lockdown was if you just lock down, then you can beat the virus. Well, why are people having the lockdown 2 or 3 times then? If lockdowns are so effective, why is that?
All right, so why are lockdowns effective? They're effective as they were in the early stages of this virus in flattening the curve so you don't overwhelm hospitals, you don't overwhelm doctors and nurses. In California, there's a total of 100 hospital beds left, 100. Okay, so the reason why there's a current lockdown in the state of California, it was announced today by Gavin Newsom, is because we don't have the capacity to take care of everyone who gets sick. You have to slow the virus down. It's not to completely eradicate the virus. Lockdowns are not meant to eradicate the virus, but it's meant to slow community spread. But I'm talking to someone who doesn't really care about facts or logic. I just wish that people like Ron DeSantis were just honest, right? No, we don't want to shut the economy down. That's what it's really about. They want to force people to go back to work. And to be fair, people want to go back to work because they're getting absolutely no financial relief from our federal government. They're just not. And people are desperate and they want to go back to work and risk their health, their family's health, just to be able to earn a living. That's how pathetic the response, not just from DeSantis, but from our elected lawmakers has been overall, okay? On a federal level, on a local level, it's just been a disaster. We are so uniquely terrible at responding to this pandemic because it requires a community mentality. It requires people working together to do the right thing to save as many human lives as possible. But we live in a country that doesn't value human life, certainly not abroad, and we're now learning, certainly not here either.
Okay, so first, the fun point before we get to the serious stuff. I'm pretty sure you don't get strung up by a bayonet. I think that you get stabbed by a bayonet and you get strung up by a rope, but facts probably don't matter anymore to Republicans, so that's probably the least of their problems. So now on to really serious stuff. So he says, Florida's doing great. Really? It's now the 3rd state. It just crossed over 1 million cases of COVID. So as usual, total utter lie by Ron DeSantis. It's doing disastrously. Now there's one other governor that's thinking of running for president in 2024 on the Republican side that also says, I don't care about the health of my constituents at all. Like with Ron DeSantis, I'm willing to play with their lives. Florida, by the way, home to a high percentage of senior citizens. Everybody knows that. He's like, nah, who cares? My career is way more important than their lives. So Kristi Noem in South Dakota is the only one that's worse. I mean, record-breaking positivity rates in South Dakota. So DeSantis says, what difference does it make, man? Closing down doesn't work anyway. Being open is just as good. Really? In South Dakota now, the positivity rate is over 40%. unheard of. No one's ever seen a positivity rate like that, except early November, also in South Dakota, where the positivity rate was an astounding 58%. So South Dakota has worse cases per capita than anywhere in the world. Why? Sturgis, they held a biker rally where no one wore masks, etc. It kept going and going and going. And they have a callous Republican governor who only thinks about her own career, who says, let him die. Who cares? Let him die. So they're dying in record numbers in South Dakota, and yes, also in Florida.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the number of new infections, of course, has increased. We had a single day high of 200,000 new coronavirus cases in one day. That happened this week. These numbers also don't even reflect the damage that's been done by Thanksgiving traveling, right? Because the results from that are delayed. We're gonna find out in about a week or so how much that travel has led to an increase in community spread. And one other thing, Ron DeSantis, much like other Republican lawmakers, brings up this issue of, well, look at these states that actually did the right thing. These states that actually did have some social distancing guidelines and did have mask mandates. I mean, numbers are going up there as well. We don't. It's the United States is the United States. Like, we're not individual countries that have borders that avoid letting people from Florida in California, vice versa. Like, we're one country. People can travel across state lines easily, spreading the virus. And they have been through holiday travel. Holiday travel exploded during Thanksgiving weekend. So, I mean, we're gonna see how this is all gonna play out, but it's not looking good. And at this point, for me personally, I'm just kind of like standing by, begging family members not to like do anything stupid until there's a vaccine or something safe that will protect them from this virus, really.
Okay,
it sucks that it's every man for themselves. Like, that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, of course. I don't want my family members interacting with Republicans. They carry disease. In this case, literally. So let me give you the latest numbers just to be absolutely clear. The hospitals are totally overwhelmed. They've exceeded 100,000 new people that are being hospitalized every day for the first time ever. So over 200,000 new cases. That's happened for the second time. These are all records. They're not just US records, they're international records, world records. And on Wednesday, we had 3,157 people die in the country from coronavirus, world record. And remember what Donald Trump said, it's gonna magically disappear. There is no amount of Donald Trump being wrong and stupid that will get through to Republican voters. They're like, no. Leading the world in deaths is a great idea. We went from worst to first. We went from first to worst. Are we tired of winning yet? And yet MAGA's like, oh man, being the best at Americans dying more than any other country is so great. I love Trump and I'll listen to any lie he says. What am I supposed to do with these guys? What is the whole country supposed to do? And the answer is avoid them. They're literally dangerous to your health. Okay, so guys, we got a post game. Hit the join button below on YouTube. It's so easy. At the essentials level, you get the post game. For everyone else, tyt.com/join, because we have so many important and fascinating stories in the post game. We can't wait to share that with you. So for the members, we'll be right back.